What is up, guys? Welcome back to another THPStrength podcast. On this episode, we are going to be talking about creatine. We have a special guest, my good friend and one of my colleagues from grad school, Brandon Jones. Brandon, go ahead, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in your studies.
Sweet. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Brandon. So I've just graduated my PhD in May here. So kind of been doing some more clinical research. So little bit different take on creatine that we've been giving it to rats undergoing chemotherapy treatment. And so along with chemotherapy treatment, the muscle shrinks pretty heavily. We've been seeing that creatine kind of counteract that shrinking of skeletal muscle that comes along with chemotherapy treatment. But I could really get into kind of the molecular mechanisms of creatine if you guys really want to nerd out on this.
Yeah. This is perfect. We'll see how relevant it is and what it comes into. But for those of you that don't know, when you get a PhD, what you do is you have a master's degree typically if you're in exercise science or sports science, and you apply to go to a university, you get accepted by the faculty, and then you spend 4 years of your life studying and researching whatever it is the topic of interest to you. Typically, you pick your school based on that topic. So my brother actually just passed his dissertation today. Congratulations, Bill. I have a twin brother with a PhD. We can officially call him doctor. Brandon is about to, congratulations to him. And also, Brandon is about to do his defense. Brandon, when is your defense?
I actually already did mine. I did it February 14th.
You did it? So you're done?
Yep.
So you're done with revisions?
No, so it's to the grad school. So normally they have formatting issues. So the fun stuff.
Okay, so how close are you to actually being able to be PhD, Brandon Jones PhD?
They really tell you after you defend. So yeah.
So you're Brandon Jones PhD.
Yep.
So we have a PhD on the podcast. So Brandon is an expert on creatine, specifically with chemotherapy, because that was his line of research. But to do that, you have to do a massive literature review, which basically means you become an expert on whatever it is, whatever focus area you're studying. So he is one of the utmost experts on creatine. I have never met anyone personally that is an expert on creatine the way that Brandon probably is or is. I will say that creatine has been a hot topic. So Austin, go ahead, say hello and tell us how this podcast happened, what you were researching, and why you're interested in creatine. Austin Burke, go ahead. I hand it over to you.
Well, I'm Austin. I dunk things sometimes, and I'm part of THP sometimes. I'm just kidding. But so basically
just when it's convenient.
Whatever. All right. So basically the way this came across was I was actually studying some stuff about saunas and how it affects levels of HGH. And I was curious if I should subject myself to like 2 hours of sauna a week. And I called John and he plugged me in with his friend here. And then we just kept talking about the sauna, and basically there's a lot of BS on the internet about it. And and then we started talking about creatine and everything. And
so
that's pretty good.
The reason why we were it's pretty good. The reason we were talking about creatine or about saunas is because Andrew Huberman, is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Huberman posts a lot about whatever he wants, basically. He talks about a ton of different stuff. And I don't know his background, Isaiah. Can you pull up whatever his credentials are? I'm actually curious because
I know he's a university professor.
I think it's at Stanford, John.
He's at Stanford. He's here. I'm about to go into the office and have a chat with Mr. Huberman. We're calling you out. Come on the podcast. You can come to my apartment. We'll do it. I'm ready to go.
You can come meet me in my house.
Yeah. But I mean, he's basically a celebrity at this point, right? I mean, he's been on Joe Rogan and he's talked extensively about stuff. But
he has a PhD in neuroscience. So basically,
he's a smart dude for sure.
He's smart for sure, but he's giving clinical recommendations on hormones, correct? Or I guess not technically clinical. What are they technically, Brandon?
Like performance, yeah.
Performance recommendations on hormones, which is a big jump. So this is something you see all the time. Brandon, just because you have PhD behind your name, does that mean that you're qualified like a medical doctor or anyone else to give recommendations about whatever you want?
I hate that average PhD make people call them doctors because it's such a different realm. You're an expert on like one tiny thing. Extrapolating that to anything else is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
I also want to say something about Huberman, because I had a stretch of time where I was like obsessed, like watching his videos last year, and I came across this like Reddit thread about, because I just wanted to see what like any criticisms were about him, and he does sometimes cite studies that have a lot of like flaws and design issues and stuff like that, and give recommendations based on a lot of studies. For the most part, his advice is really good, but it's not perfect.
No one is without flaws.
Yeah.
So that's good, but that's pretty much how this came up. And I guess, does he talk about creatine, Austin?
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen anything about him.
There's a
Creatine.
lot like on different like types of roots and stuff. A lot about building testosterone, sleeping, waking up, like giving maximum
Interesting.
productivity.
Well, the
Coffee,
reason
exercise.
why I wanted to get Brandon specifically on is because it's easy to find information these days. It's very difficult to find information that's valid and reliable. You can type anything into Google and odds are 99% of the first 5 things that come up are bullshit. And so, Brandon, you are one of the most experts, or one of the like foremost experts I've ever met. You know, you have a PhD in basically creatine as it relates to chemotherapy and cancer. But as it pertains to that, you have to learn, or like to my point, you have to learn so much about creatine to get your PhD. You have to be an expert in creatine. So
I really
guess
start on the performance background and looking at the human performance benefits for sure.
Yeah. So you started as that being the interest. Why did you end up studying like as it pertains to like oncology, I guess?
So it's all based on your advisor's like line of research, and that's kind of what he was doing already. So I loved it in the first place. So it's kind of why I jumped under being his student.
So you piggybacked.
Yep, Dr. David Hydock at University of Northern Colorado. You want to see some good research, you can just Google that and you'll find some good stuff.
Sweet. Okay, so tell us, like, I mean, creatine is used so commonly for sports performance. It's probably one of the number one, I wouldn't say performance enhancing drugs, performance enhancing supplements that jumpers use. Talk about why it's effective specifically for jumping as a performance improving agent, but why it doesn't necessarily work as well for everyone.
Yeah, so it has to be a very high intensity, short duration activity. Think like that. It's increasing phosphocreatine. So that's the first thing that really replenishes cellular energy sources. So ATP. So it just gives you a little bit more energy stored within the cell. And honestly, I don't think it's quite as strong as a performance enhancer as most people think. That having a little bit more phosphocreatine in there is only so beneficial that I'd say a third of the studies don't find advantage in creatine in actual performance. Yeah.
Have you seen creatine as it pertains to vertical jump? Any studies about that?
No, because it's really, you think it will increase your ability to train. Like you'll have a shorter rest period in between you doing your vertical jumps, but actual skeletal muscle strength and power, it shouldn't really change that directly. It change it by adding more training volume, more or less.
So I've always thought that as well, that creatine should just give you more energy substrate. And I guess in very layman terms, describe what the 3 energy systems are and why it's relevant to high intensity exercise.
Yep. So the very first energy system, the one we were talking about, is the phosphocreatine system. So just stored cellular ATP and creatine phosphate that's in the muscle. So like max intensity, that's depleted within like 7 seconds. So you burn through that super quick. So that's why it's only beneficial if your sport is under 10 seconds long. So then you go into glycolysis after that. So you're only breaking down glucose and you're producing lactic acid, causing fatigue really quickly then. And then if you go even longer duration after that, then you start using the mitochondria and oxidative phosphorylation. So now you're using oxygen to create energy using the mitochondria. So that can go on for a really long period of time, but it takes a while to get that ramped up. So it's all that yin and yang, phosphocreatine, high intensity, short duration, oxidative phosphorylation, long duration, low intensity.
Okay, so for what we're doing specifically, I mean, I know you powerlifted in grad school. We would talk about it pretty often. I think you and Ryan pretty regularly were lifting. I don't know if you guys lifted all the time together, but you guys definitely, I remember lifting quite a bit. And I knew that was like Ryan was a thrower and that was his interest. So you guys obviously have very high intensity, very short or very long rest periods. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because you're trying to phosphorylate the creatine phosphate, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, creatine kinase, the supplement that you take, is functioning to help phosphorylate the creatine phosphate, or it's taking creatine and phosphorylating it to make creatine phosphate.
Yeah, so taking more dietary creatine will get to the muscle and become more phosphocreatine.
So why does that
creatine
work?
kinase.
Why? Because you're not actually taking in creatine phosphate. You're taking in actually creatine kinase, which is like taking in half the substrate, kind of, I guess.
Yeah. So you still have to get it into the cell and has to be phosphorylated through the enzyme you're talking about. Creatine kinase is already within the muscle, and that's going to make creatine into creatine phosphate.
So by taking creatine, you're loading it into the muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And creatine kinase is the enzyme that phosphorylates the creatine to make it creatine phosphate. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it can increase by like 20 to 50% through supplementation. So pretty significant increase in phosphocreatine in the muscle.
Say that again?
20 to 50% increase in phosphocreatine.
You could increase your creatine phosphate by 50% by taking creatine.
Yep. Yeah,
Why?
It is pretty crazy.
So how long does it take for the creatine to actually get phosphorylated and for the enzyme to like work on the supplement?
Yeah, so at least a week. That's kind of why you do the initial loading period. You take 20 to 30 grams every day for about a week. And then you take 5 grams every day after that to maintain that phosphocreatine in there. So like all the Bang energy drinks and things like that, there's no acute benefit to creatine. Just taking
those have creatine in them?
One time. What'd you say?
Those have creatine in them?
Yep. I'm pretty sure
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it on the can. What if what if you were to take instead of loading it 20 to 30 grams a day, how long would it take I guess to get, I don't know how you would word it, to be overloaded
to get loaded?
Yeah.
So
if you just took
how long before you're loaded?
5 grams every day and
if you were to just take 5 grams, how long would it take to be loaded with creatine?
So I think it'd be really individualized, but I'd say probably closer to a week and a half, 2 weeks. So it'll still get to the same levels, but it'll take longer.
And once you stop taking creatine, I guess I'll give my personal example. And this is
tell us about how
very individualized.
Tell us about how you hop on and off creatine super frequently. I
actually don't hop off of it very frequently.
There was a week, I guess, recently.
Yeah, it was way longer than that. I was on it since September 2021, and then I hopped off of it in January 2023. So this January, so that's about a year and a half that I was on it, and then I think I was off of it for probably 2 or 3 months. I recently got on it last month, so it was like 2 months completely off. So I guess my question, what is I was on it for almost 2 years and then hopped off it for a month. Would I still be overloaded at that point? And then what about for like a different example? I think what would be more frequent for guys we train is like they might use it for like 2 months and then maybe like get off of it for like a week or two and then hop back on. Like what would be the difference?
Yeah, so I actually think it's probably beneficial to cycle on and off of it a little bit. Your body will become sensitized to it if you go off of it for a while. You could probably increase it more. So if you're on it for like 3 years straight, I almost think your body would kind of adjust to that much creatine all the time and wouldn't be pushing into the skeletal muscle as much. That's a little beyond what the research would truly tell you directly, but I do think cycling it a little bit would be beneficial. But overall, I think the average person would decrease their phosphocreatine in the muscle at a similar rate, no matter. So right when you get off of it, I'd say your phosphocreatine levels will go down pretty quickly for the average person.
How long do you have to cycle off of it to resensitize?
So I don't think there's any research directly telling you that. I would say at least 2 weeks, because I think it'd be starting to get out of your system within a week, and then 2 weeks, probably the kind of the transporter in the cell, which would be needed to get in to have it increased sensitivity, would probably take at least another week.
And how long does it take to desensitize?
That was my next question.
Yeah,
We're,
so I
we're right
really
here with
am-
it, John. We're right here with it.
I love these questions though. You guys are getting after it. I really don't think there'd be any direct research on that, but I would
How about
estimate 2 weeks
experientially,
to a month.
having being an expert on creatine, like your experience as a just personally knowing as much as you do about creatine, and I know because me search is research, baby.
It is.
Taking creatine, what do you think?
Yeah, I would cycle off it for about a month. Just try to get your body not used to that much creatine again. But so you could actually get creatine from your normal diet too. So you could just
I was
eat
gonna
enough
ask that.
meat
Isn't it
and
meat?
fish.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of meat?
Yep. It would be a ridiculous amount of meat, but you could definitely do it. So, but like vegans and vegetarians are the top people who could really benefit from creatine supplementation.
That is actually super interesting. I
I-
did not know that.
I
How
There's
heard
much
non-responders too. So there's
how much
people
meat
who
would you have
not
to eat?
improve.
How much meat would you have to eat? Isaiah loves meat.
Yeah.
Big meat guy.
I would say
Like how much, if you had to give a distance of meat, say if it were in a like a
Yeah.
stick of meat, girthy stick of meat, how much meat would you have to eat?
Girthy stick of meat.
let's go
Yeah,
five
I said,
meters,
yeah,
5
Austin,
meter stick
what's
a
wrong with
day.
that? What's wrong with a girthy stick of meat? How much
I-
meat would you have to eat of that girthy
Nothing
stick?
wrong with that.
5 meters.
5 meters of meat.
Yeah, I don't know
Whoa.
how frequently you're eating that or how the diameter, but I'm going 5 meters.
Let's say like, I don't know, like, what do you think this water bottle is? Oh, the kitty.
Is this
Austin,
5
I want
meters
to
of
hear your
meat? Like if I
perspective
eat
on
my
this
cat, will I get
conversation.
enough creatine?
What did you say?
If I eat my cat, will I get enough creatine?
Yeah, it's exactly a cat a day is what we normally say.
Is it
That
true
is
that
disturbing.
is it true that you can get a lot of creatine from fish?
Yeah, so that's kind of the red meats and fish are your main sources from the diet. They're actually your body produces about 50% of your creatine just through amino acids that are already in the blood as well. So you get it through your diet and the body makes creatine by itself.
So you're telling me that Isaiah doesn't have to eat a 5 meter girthy piece of meat to get all the creatine he needs. He could just take
Damn
a
it.
pill. That's 5.
But it doesn't mean he'll stop. Like
I still love meat. Like
Dude, I honestly, I don't see anything wrong with it. Like
there isn't anything wrong with that.
if you were to go into my fridge right now, you would definitely find like a big ass thing of salami. Just like, I don't even know, probably like 6-inch diameter of salami that's always on hand because it's always good to have protein readily available, a lot of meat and creatine. So I keep that on hand at all times. I know, Isaiah, yours is what? How long? Like you have like 2-3 of those.
You asked me how
Austin-
long your meat is. That's
No,
really-
how many? No. How long it is and how many of them you have. All
I
right.
plead the
Anyways,
fifth. I plead the
You
fifth.
plead the fifth. Okay, so back to the hard hitting content here. How long would you stay on creatine before you would actually cycle off of it? I guess also a month, so like a month on, a month off.
No, I think you could stay on it for quite some time before you start getting desensitized to it. So I would just, off the top of my head, kind of what I do is like 6 months on, maybe 1 month off.
That's what I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just do it
Expert over here.
naturally. I feel it.
You guys
Yeah.
just eyeball it, huh? I like that. Okay, let's talk about water weight. This is something that's
Yeah.
super important for speed powered athletes. And one of the things that I oftentimes, when asked, by athletes if they should take creatine, I usually say, try it. If you gain weight and you're not jumping higher, cycle off of it. Don't take it. I don't take it. I've only ever taken it a couple times in my entire life. I've never really noticed much of a difference. However, anecdotally, the number of athletes that swear by creatine is insane. I'm talking like there's this guy, Andy Nicholson, right? He holds this camp every year called Dunk Camp. We all go to it. Best jumpers in the entire world. If you were to talk to the number of guys that take creatine and swear by it, that their vertical increased by 1 to 2 inches just by taking creatine, I promise it would probably be like 30 to 40% of guys. And Andy, actually, he's like, that is one of my top 10 tips. He gave a lecture and he's like, one of my top 10 tips, one of them was like, oh, I jump whatever frequency. I learn technique from someone that looks like I do with my technique. I do double unders. Like, these are his tips. And then one of them was like creatine. Creatine is something I swear by. My vertical always goes up when I take creatine. Do you think it's possible for max strength and power? You said there's no research done on vertical jump specifically, but is there research done on power output with creatine?
Really, the only performance benefit you say is better increased or repeated sprint bouts. So it's
So like
really
time to exhaustion, you have like
yes,
higher quality of training. Time to exhaustion is longer.
exactly. So like we actually take the muscle out and test it in a chamber, and we don't see any change in like muscle force output, but it'll contract for longer at a higher force output with creatine in it.
So you think that it's just the adaptation from higher quality for a longer bout of training?
Right. It's higher quality training is definitely where the benefit's going to be coming in. But
Okay,
something
so
you hit
here's
on,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you definitely got to talk about an increase in body weight, but that's increasing water weight in the muscle is probably the number one finding of any creatine study. So honestly,
How much weight?
uh pretty little. I'd say like 1 to 2% of body weight. It could really vary a ton between the
Yeah, for
person.
jumping, that's actually quite a bit. Like if we're
Mhm.
talking 2% and we're looking at Isaiah, what do you weigh right now? 180?
178.8.
What were you at your heaviest?
185.
185, right? And that was probably on creatine, right?
Yeah.
And you're 178 right now?
Yeah.
Are you on creatine?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're how long have you been on creatine?
A month.
So you're loaded. Odds are you have the water loaded in the system. And
I think I've
at
also just lost a lot of weight.
yeah, that's true. So let's say it was 185. Let's say it was 185, right? We multiply that by 0.02, and we know that's roughly 4 pounds, which is significant. I would say if you're a jumper and you're carrying 4 more pounds, that would suck, you know. And I guess, is that centrally
But it could also
distributed,
be, he said
or is
1
it
to
across your
2%.
whole body? So
He
it could be
said,
it could be 1.5 pounds.
because when I take creatine, I don't gain that much weight.
Austin, what about you?
Well, I actually don't take normal creatine. That's one of my questions was I actually take creatine HCl, so I didn't gain water weight. A girl introduced me to that like a couple years ago, but when I used to take creatine, I was also drinking a ton of beer, taking creatine, drinking a ton of water, eating at Miller's like 3 times a day with Isaiah. So I don't really know what the weight gain was from, but this girl swore by it. She's like, yeah, I don't gain water weight. So I've been taking creatine HCl for about 2 years, and that was kind of lead to something. I don't know exactly what it doesn't what like I don't know, bind to the water molecules. So you don't need as much water. There's no loading phase or anything like that.
Brandon, address some of those claims. We got a lot.
Yeah,
We got a couple here.
Yeah, I
Save me
have to
money.
say I'm not a fan of other. I think creatine monohydrate is like what 90% of all the research is on, and I couldn't imagine. So HCl is hydrochloride creatine, and their main benefit that they talk about is not broke down in the stomach as much by having more of that hydrochloride in it, and even that I don't think is very backed in the research, but.
So it's
Honestly, the
bullshit.
more you know, the
You're calling
more,
bullshit on that.
yeah,
I've spent so
overall,
much
yes.
money.
Yeah.
Austin, you've spent money on snake oil. Congratulations. I hope it
Well,
was
that's
worth
why
it.
I feel like crap all the time.
If
Like,
you sleep at
for
night,
2 years.
I hope you sleep at night knowing you've spent $2,000 on
Oh, it was
creatine
not that much. It was like
hydrochloride.
it's like $60 every like 3 months, I think.
All right. Okay.
But it's like
Well,
I don't drink water. Like I was drinking so much coffee and stuff, and I was like, this is convenient. This is the most efficient way. Like I won't have to drink as much water. Like I don't have a loading period, like phase, whatever. I just take one shot, and it's the most sour thing I've ever done in my entire life. And
does that still load in the system? Is it still effective at all, Brandon, or no?
I would say it's probably equally effective as creatine monohydrate.
Okay, so it's still at least
Change
as
it a little
effective.
bit. It's all about marketing. They change it a tiny bit, and it's like, oh, it has this benefit. But
We're all too familiar in our industry. It is a marketing shit show. It
so,
is
so you're
a disaster.
saying it still works for me. I just may be killing myself slowly, right?
no, I probably think it's pretty healthy.
Odds are the
creatine
chlorine is just
creatine, in my opinion.
the chlorine's building up in your system, and chlorine is highly reactive. It's probably going to react with the water. And if you've ever put like straight chlorine with water, it just explodes.
Spontaneously combust.
Your stomach is slowly just building chlorine to the point where if you take a big sip of water, your stomach is just going to.
You ever seen those whales that blow up?
Yeah, like an explosive whale.
Yo, I hope it happens I hope it happens in a YouTube video or something. Like I want to tribute.
Boom, your stomach explodes.
You know what's Austin? You know what's weird about us saying
friends.
this is the other day we were working out, or like I think we were filming a YouTube video, and Austin like almost trips, and then I was like, Austin, if you died on a video, would you want me to post like the
Ugh, I don't know. I would just want one of those really corny tributes. Like I don't want something good. Like I just want like a few like black and white shots of me turning.
Austin,
towards
what if we like
the-
put the
I'll make the
song-
dunk mix.
Yeah.
But like
Of all misses, a mistape.
yeah, I'm cool with that. Okay.
I'll make a top 10 best missed dunks by Austin. Like how Air Up There has one of those videos. I'm gonna make one of Austin.
I have not. Oh, oh, at least they're good jumps then. I like that. Okay, so that said, how much does everyone gain? Is it a requirement for the creatine to be effective to gain water? And how much water do you actually have to consume, Brandon?
Yeah, so I don't think your water intake has to increase that much.
And there you go, Austin. You don't even need to drink water anymore.
I wouldn't go that far.
Brandon said, the doctor said that you don't need to drink water.
Okay. I'll never again. I won't do it. I promise. No more water.
Just beer. That's the key.
Just light beer. He's from
I drink
Wisconsin.
whiskey to
No,
stay.
no light
Lacrosse.
beer. I didn't say light beer.
I
IPAs
drink
all
whiskey
day.
and vodka to stay slim. You know, I'm on that supermodel chick, the blonde chick from the Bay or the Valley diet.
He's a Valley girl.
I'm a Valley girl.
He's an almond girl, just straight almonds. Brandon, are you from Wisconsin?
Yeah, Madison. Just
You're
south
from
of
Madison? Okay. Are you living in Madison right now?
Yep.
I don't know if this is true, but word is that lacrosse in Wisconsin or Michigan?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Is the highest brewery per capita? Is that what it is? Or what is it?
Bars per capita. So amount
Bars
of
per
from
capita?
the amount of people that live there, and I'd believe it.
So
I think it's just what people around there say. But
and where did you go to school?
Yeah, lacrosse. So
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
black out 3 times a week. It's a good place. Yeah.
Austin's
visit
like,
sometime.
yeah, I think it would be fun. We'll
It'll make a
visit, Brandon.
THP. It'll be the THP work trip.
Yeah, the THP work trip to the coldest area we could possibly find, where we can just hop from bar to bar to bar in
The
lacrosse.
whiskey keeps you warm, bro. It's okay.
Real thing.
All
Makes you feel warm.
right, I have another question, unrelated. Do you have any notable stories of me from college? For those of you that don't know, like I said earlier, Brandon and I went to college together before THP existed. And I asked you this on the call. What is it that you remember about me from grad school?
Crazy energy. Definitely top number 1. Crazy energy. Yeah.
Thank you, people. Thank you.
Crazy in a good and a bad way.
All right. And how much of the time would you say I was paying attention in class?
5%. Yeah.
5% of the time.
The
What
rest
was
of
I
the class
doing the
is
other
like a
95% of the time?
Yeah. For sure.
What would you say I was doing the other 95% of the time in class?
Researching high jump, 100%. Yeah. That's if I asked like a high jump expert, I'd direct them to you 100% of the time.
All right, here's the next question for those that don't know, because this is interesting for people. People don't know what I was like before THP existed. You saw me at the I don't want to say the beginning of my no, I always had an obsession, but you saw me when I was like training hard, back to training. Did you ever visit like the OTC, the Olympic training site, and ever like go in there and lift with those guys? You did? Did you ever see me in there just lifting all the time or no?
No, I didn't go there that often because they didn't
great.
like those power lifters. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was. Well, they were okay with them. It was a great place. They actually cut that program recently. Quite sad.
I know.
Actually.
I heard that. It's super sad.
It's unfortunate, but hey, I benefited from it when it was there, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other guys, do you have questions about me in college, Austin or Isaiah? Things you want to know?
I knew you in college, didn't I?
No, you didn't. This was 2 years
Sure.
before. This was a year before I met you. A year before I talked to you, Austin, and probably a year and a half to 2 years, Isaiah, before I met you. Brandon knew me in 2015? Is that when we started grad school?
Yeah, 2015, 2017.
2015, 2017, obsessed with high jump. I tell people, I'm like, I've been obsessed with this far longer than then, but at least you have someone validating I've been obsessed with it since 2015. And do you remember what I presented on for my like senior synthesis like presentation or whatever? Do you remember that?
Pretty sure.
I remember yours. Yours was on icing.
Huh. Or
Like,
yeah, I guess it was on
Oh,
icing.
I'm hungry, man. I thought you were talking about cakes. Like I was like, icing? I'm like, how'd you write a whole thing on icing?
No.
Hungry.
On icing.
Pre-workout
Sorry.
icing. I really think it could be a thing. High glucose right there.
There's high levels of
Uh,
creatine found in
I think your
icing.
insulin would
Eddie Crawford.
spike and you'd fall asleep during your workout.
Well, you gotta just keep eating icing. the
You
whole
just have to
time.
keep eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I have one more creatine question.
I have tons of
Yeah.
creatine
Is it my
questions. I just
question?
got
You can't steal
derailed.
my question.
But go ahead. What's your question?
Wait, I wanna steal your question, Austin.
No, you can't steal my question.
Write it down,
What?
text it to him so we can verify if that was
No, we
your
already talked
question.
about it. We know it. No, you know what? Fine, but I get to say my rhyme.
Okay.
Deal. Go.
Does creatine increase potency?
Potency?
Male virility.
Yep.
Male
What
that's
are your
the
thoughts on the
number one finding.
creatine peen?
Wait. Are you asking if it makes your penis bigger?
Harder.
Makes it
I
harder.
was thinking getting more pregnancies in girls, but
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I thought you meant.
The
Like
creatine
fertility.
peen, does it exist?
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
It's real?
Yeah.
Creatine makes your penis
what?
harder?
Yeah. No. I have not read any of that research, but it's out there. I'm sure.
If
Bro.
you do a study, could you call it the creatine peen and quote me?
I want to see
So-
how they test this too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are they gonna do? Get an erection and then take a tape, like a rope tape measure, and wrap
diamond
it around
tester.
You have to weigh it like on one of those food scales. See how, like,
Good
see,
luck with that one.
just like this, like
10 grams increase.
yeah, just that's terrible.
So there's no studies or nothing. No, nothing.
Not that I haven't looked into it at all, believe it or not.
Hey, Brandon, we have a question. There's some. I'll tell you what. There has to be some money behind that research. I guarantee, Brandon, if you wanted to do that study, I'm certain Pornhub would. They'd probably give you all the money you needed. It seemed like a very wealthy business and
Well,
company.
we can do it in
Face
rap,
of
so,
Pornhut if you
yeah.
really want.
You could be the face of Pornhub.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to do that.
Mentally
I don't think you want to
disturbing.
do that.
Put your heart
Okay.
to it, your mind.
So there's no Austin. Where did you hear that?
So my friend Russell, he's actually I think he's in residency right now in New Jersey.
So he's going to be a medical doctor, like a real
Yes,
doctor.
yeah. So
But he's not a
when-
creatine expert. This is
No,
exactly
no,
what
no.
we're talking about. There's
No, so
medical
I-
doctors are not creatine experts, Austin.
So when we were younger, he was working out and whatnot, and we actually talked about this yesterday, so I can follow up with like his recent thoughts on it. So we were about 15, and we were just like, hitting the gym here and there, and he was like, "Dude, like I started taking creatine, and my penis, man, it's like so strong. It's like it's the creatine peen, man. Like it's something going crazy." And he like we swore by it for years. So I always just like took it as off because he was like one of the smartest people I've ever met, ever. So I never
Are
questioned
you
it.
sure that maybe it wasn't the fact that he was 15?
Well, that's what he said. He was like, "Bro, to be honest, I don't think creatine peen exists." He goes, "I think I was just growing up." And I was like, that makes sense. But I had someone to ask.
All these years I've been spending money on creatine. I've loaded 20 grams a day since I
I
was
take
15.
my HCL shot and I feel powerful. I'm like, "Ugh."
Do you guys
Austin.
remember? Do you guys remember the fish oil and multivitamin though?
Oh man.
That was real. That was real.
All right, Brandon, I'm gonna give you the backstory of this. Okay.
Okay.
So
Um,
I'm sorry. We actually got a lot of useful, valuable information from this podcast. We're getting a little derailed, but the entertainment value of this is very high. So, backstory: we decide to pair with Legion supplements. Okay, so Legion supplements, super popular. I'm sure you've heard of them. Very well known. And someone that was a good friend of ours and was helping us with business, Hunter. Shout out Hunter if you still listen to these. We paired with them, right? And so they sent us supplements and we had to like post them on our stories super frequently. It was super annoying. And so we all started taking these multi-supplements. We're talking like 8 horse pills. And then it was like 4. It was like 4, I think. And then you had to take 8 fish oil supplements a day. Was that it, Isaiah?
I think so. Yeah.
They were like 8 fat ass horse pill fish oils and then 4 massive vitamin pills. And then on top of that, we do that every day. And like the stuff in this shit would make your skin crawl. Like Isaiah,
it would make it tingly.
it like made it tingle. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know if they were putting like
I looked it up. It's something that they put in it just to make it feel like it's working.
yeah.
Like, just
I-
to give people the
it
sensation.
It also,
that it's
I
working.
swear, it probably gave me
What?
anal leakage. But whatever it was,
Oh, I
like
forgot
what?
about that phase?
What? Yeah. What's the?
Not for me.
Oh, right. So what's the stuff that like it's like a hyperthermic effect that people talk about, fat burning and shit? What is it? What are those called? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like fat
Yeah,
burners,
I would
but
just call them fat burners, and
yeah.
I
Anyways,
don't think any of them that are on the market are really that valid.
yeah. Anyways, I don't know what this had in it. What's the really popular one that's like really unhealthy for your liver or something like that? It used to be really popular.
I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't remember what it's called. Anyways, I don't know if it had that shit in it, but it had like whatever root, what was it? Ashwagandha root. It had like, what else did it have? A ton of vitamin D, like a ton of vitamin D. And then a lot of, I mean, everything was maxed out in it, but then they had all these random ass roots. Pumpkin seed was in it. Like all these stuff, all these supplements that have a little bit of research about improving testosterone. That's why you have to take 4 of these horse pills a day. So Isaiah starts taking it. Austin starts taking it. I start taking it.
And Connor. And Connor.
We're on this shit for like, how long were we on this supplement?
Couple
It was a
months,
while.
dude.
It was, and all of a sudden we one day come up with a conversation. We're like, hey, is anyone else noticing like, I don't know, like their sex drive is like crazy and like your like dick borderline feels like it's going to explode on this stuff. And Isaiah's like, bro, yes, it is exactly like that. And we're all like, no fucking way. What did they put in this shit? Like, I don't remember what it was, but I don't know if I gained any muscle mass. I don't know if my performance went up whatsoever. But I know for sure that there was, all of us had the same exact response. And we're like, what is happening? Is there any validity to ashwagandha root and pumpkin seeds and all of that shit? Because it was, the libido was, I mean, they're younger than
It was
me, so-
crazy. And it was like repeatable. Like I would get off of it. And as soon as I would get back on it, it was just boom, like crazy, nonstop.
I honestly think that could be a thing, like a
What?
vasodilator.
Oh my
there's
gosh.
Vasodilators that would get more blood to the dick. And it would be a
Dr.
real
Jones
thing.
said it here first, folks.
Dude,
I
so
mean, you have enough
actually,
stuff
I've
in
been
there, one of
taking.
them's got to do it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I've been taking ashwagandha for a while. Like I cycle it every couple months. So I've noticed. I talked to Isaiah about this yesterday too. I don't know what's been going on with the penis talk, but like apparently it's every conversation in my life. But basically, I take ashwagandha like for stress and like whatever, lowering cortisol level. I don't know what the hell I take it for. You know what I think I'm supposed.
Whatever
Huberman.
Huberman says to take.
And
it
whatever
for.
Huberman told me, I take it for it. But basically, I was combining that with fish oil, and there was this period for a month where like it was worse than the Legion stuff. Like I was like walking around, and like my girl would make breakfast. I'd be like, ugh. Like you know, and like 10 minutes later, like I'm like she like drops a water bottle. I'm like, ugh. Like you know what I mean? Like gives me a hug. I'm like you know, it was so bad. Like I was actually scary. Like I felt like. I don't know, like I was on a desert island for like 6 years and like I haven't felt the touch of a woman or something. It was, but once I got off of fish oil in combination with ashwagandha, my sex drive was like it's pretty normal now. But it was like some of the fish oil, man. I don't even know if it was the multivitamin. I feel like it was the.
I think it was related to the fish oil we were taking.
Do you know, Brandon? Is there any validity to like omegas and stuff like that?
I'm sure there's some validity to it. I know very little on it though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are a doctor, so whatever you say, and you're a creatine doctor. You're a supplement doctor. We're gonna label this the supplement doctor.
I
Talks
might get into
about.
supplements. Yeah, there's a chance that's what I go into. If
I
academia
think you
doesn't
would
pan out.
kill doing that. You would make a killing, and it probably enjoy it. You'd make a ton of money.
Yep,
And,
academia
dude,
is a shit show, to be honest.
Yeah, and you could put whatever you want in those pills. There's no FDA regulations.
Mhm.
You could take a leak in it and be like, "It's a drug. It's good to go."
It's a Pornhub.
Yeah. All right. So, any other creatine questions that you guys had off the top of your heads, Isaiah and Austin? Because I probably still have some more, but I need to refresh my mind because we've gotten off topic.
I have a note. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Ooh, Austin, you came prepared.
Shout out antidepressants. Here.
That's right. Go team. Oh, dude, did I forget to take mine?
You cannot be a high jumper without some sort of mental health issue.
Well, I think I did. All right. Anyways, go ahead.
So I'm like looking for the note. I apologize. You guys can just talk, and then once I pull it
I'll
up,
try to remember if I had any. Okay, so
I've
as
got
a
pretty important point that no one really talks on.
I want to hear it. Let's hear it. What is your point?
Along with increasing amount of phosphocreatine that's in the muscle, so having more phosphocreatine in the muscle will actually consume hydrogen ions. So like what lactic acid produces to cause fatigue, having more phosphocreatine in the muscle consumes that and will cause fatigue to come on a little bit later in exercise.
So you're saying that the glycolytic process, and we look at lactic acid as a measure of fatigue in the muscle because it's correlated with all the other metabolic byproducts that build up, doesn't necessarily cause it, but it is actually used as an energy source in that glycolytic pathway. You're saying that creatine phosphate, it helps with the utilization of lactate in the muscle?
So like what's associated with lactate that causes fatigue is that hydrogen ion.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
right.
what
The
causes
acidity,
that
correct.
muscle to like start contracting less efficiently. And so when phosphocreatine breaks down and creates more ATP, it puts a hydrogen ion into that ATP molecule. So ADP plus phosphocreatine plus a hydrogen ion makes
So you're
ATP.
saying that the second metabolic pathway would be a more efficient buffering system by taking creatine, sorry.
Yeah, it's
You would
definitely
you would be better at buffering acidity.
exactly. Yeah,
What?
there's a lot of research really backing that, and nobody really talks about it.
How is no one talking about this?
Yep, definitely
Bro,
for any high intensity athlete, that's a huge part of it.
You could literally run like repeat 200s to oblivion, and you would. How is that not a borderline banned supplement?
It's probably the only supplement I truly recommend, along with like caffeine, whey protein, things like that. But creatine is definitely my number one.
Okay, here's a question. Do you ever lose the water weight that you gain? Does it come up a little bit and then come down, or is it required for you to maintain that increase in water mass?
Yeah, so as long as you have more phosphocreatine in the muscle, the water is going to be there too. So if you went off creatine, the water would went away. But and creatine's a salt, and salt goes into the cell, water is going to follow it. So it's really just increasing water weight.
Do you look softer?
No, for
That's not
real.
what
I
I
really
meant.
think bodybuilders would have to go off creatine.
I was gonna say, like, would you look less lean on creatine?
Yeah, I've noticed that for sure myself. And
Isaiah, Austin, have you guys noticed that? Austin, you don't, because you take creatine HCl.
I'm a bougie motherfucker.
Creatine chloride or whatever. Is it hydrochloride or?
Yeah, I think so. I'm killing myself slowly. It's okay.
So no, but seriously, Austin, have you noticed that do you not gain the water weight on it?
Not at all. That's why I've been so lean the last year.
Does everyone gain water weight, Brandon, when you take it?
When you take
if
mine,
it's truly getting into the muscle, yeah, it might be very minimal. And I mean, there's so much other weight fluctuations and water changes, but if you're getting more creatine into the cell, water is going to be following it. So if you're getting the benefit of more phosphocreatine, the water has to follow and just
So you might not notice the leanness if there's other factors, like if you're dieting better in correlation with taking creatine.
And if
like
you're
if you're leaning up
high meat diet, you're probably not getting a ton of benefit from the creatine in the first place. It makes sense.
Say that again.
So if you're already eating a very high meat heavy diet, you're probably naturally supplementing with creatine. So the little bit extra you're taking probably is not having that much benefit and not increasing your water weight for that reason. That it's already kind of maximized the amount of phosphocreatine in the muscle.
You said something earlier. The body creates creatine through non-essential amino acids. Is that what you said?
Yeah, arginine and glycine.
So if you were to, obviously, when you eat protein, it's made of amino acids. You eat the protein, it breaks it down in the gut, and the amino acids become essentially usable building blocks, correct? So if you were to just eat more meat, or take in more protein, not even more meat, like if I were to take a whey supplement, could that, like, is it the protein intake or is it specifically meat?
No, it's meat specifically as creatine by itself.
So your body doesn't break it down; it like just absorbs it right in, like that's been radio labeled, and it comes right into the.
Think like if you ate your own muscle, it's already got creatine in it. It's just eating muscle, pretty much.
If you're eating a lot of meat, I'm assuming that's all your water weight's going to be higher as well.
Yeah, like if you completely cut meat out of your diet, then you're not be getting that creatine, and your water weight would go down.
So recently I've been drinking a shit ton of milk, specifically Fairlife skim milk, right? And I've really only been eating protein in the form of like dinners in the evening. And usually it's, I don't know, not that much. I mean, maybe we're talking 4 to 8 ounces of red meat, probably 2 to 3 times a week. And then probably more, because on the weekends I'll try to eat a little bit more red meat. And then I'll get it through chicken, you know, or whatever else. So would you say that because of that, I would probably benefit because my meat intake is relatively low, even though my protein intake is really high, that I would probably benefit from taking creatine, but I would also probably gain water weight because there is sodium in the milk. I know that. And so my sodium intake is a little bit higher. Or do you think that I probably wouldn't like see a massive increase in water weight and I probably wouldn't, but I still might benefit from it?
Yeah, I think you definitely could benefit if you're not eating that much direct meat. That like your natural system of making creatine from amino acids that aren't meat derived has a pretty good limit. That probably only about 50% of your creatine is made through just building up through amino acids. If you're not getting it from meat, you could increase your phosphocreatine a lot more.
Right. And during I mean, for us as jumping athletes, we go into a session, we jump as long as we can, literally as long as we can. And typically what happens is we'll actually fall off our performance, not because of the fatigue per se. I mean, obviously we want to see the peak of our jumping be consistently higher for longer, but it's more so that our joints will give out first. I mean, Isaiah, Austin, you guys know, like we would have it for as long as we could on those good days, but typically either injury sets in first for jumping athletes. So I guess, is there any relevance in that sense? Like, do you have anything to add on about that? Or do you think that, you know, because the limiter for us is the joints and stuff like that, do you think maybe the muscles around the joint or whatever else are going to function at a higher capacity? Maybe you're hammering in good technique with good alignment or whatever else, your biomechanics are cleaner because you're less fatigued. Do you think maybe that is potentially worth taking and you could have longer jump sessions? One, because your power output's higher for longer, and then two, because you're biomechanically not fatiguing. And so you could hypothetically, you know, hammer in more jumps with more correct, less fatigued jump technique.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it to have too much of an impact. It's all that connective tissue is not going to have creatine within it, but
yeah, I'm more so talking about just better movement, longer.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you have that higher, like if you have more phosphocreatine in the muscle, you're at higher intensity during those first couple sets, and you might fatigue slightly quicker for that. Or you're putting so much higher intensity at the beginning with more creatine in the muscle.
So you're saying that you would fatigue quicker because your output's higher?
Right.
So you're saying I will increase my output?
Yeah, a higher force output is going to have to fatigue quicker. So if it's
you're saying that by taking creatine, I'll increase my force output?
Honestly, no. Yeah, that's one thing.
So you're not saying I won't increase my force output, but you did just say I would increase my force output and run out of creatine faster. So would I run out of creatine faster or not?
If you're supplementing it, you'll probably run out of it a little quicker.
That is do you see the contradiction here?
Yeah, but so that you're from having that high intensity output at the beginning due to having more phosphocreatine at the end due to having that higher force output. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's
Okay.
not your higher force output during that first session. It's that as you continue on, that you're able to recover a little bit quicker. So your next couple sessions, you're producing a little bit more force.
So you're saying intra-session, you're not going to see it. You're seeing it subsequent sessions, 24 to 48 hours later, you have higher output.
No. So within like your first set compared to your third set.
Yeah. So I'm saying if you think of jumping as like, let's say I jump 30 times, max effort. That's like 30 by 1. Each rep is 3 seconds, 1 rep, super high intensity, right? 3 to 5 steps, 30 by 5-second effort, right? Taking 1 to 2 minutes rest. I'm saying that should increase the quality. The first rep to the 30th is better post-creatine versus pre-creatine, correct?
First rep versus last. There's some nuance.
No,
in
no, no.
there,
Sorry.
yeah.
So let me say this. Your 30th rep will be better on creatine versus off creatine.
Yeah, overall, I think you are correct. That would be the normal way of thinking about it, that you have more phosphocreatine in the muscle, more energy substrate, you'd be able to produce less.
So I guess
fatigue
elaborate,
weight.
like, let's say I do 30 jumps, I'm on creatine. I do 30 jumps, I'm off creatine. What should I expect in my jump session? I'm loaded.
Yeah, that honestly, I wouldn't expect a huge difference. That like if you're really measuring height and force output, it probably wouldn't be dramatic. It'd be
But
more.
let's say like we're comparing the vertical at jump 1, 15, and 30. Is there going to be a difference?
I would honestly probably say no. That
Really?
yeah. Yep.
So you think that your force output, your training, you said your training is going to be higher because your training quality is going to be higher because by taking creatine, like your time to failure is longer, right? Your time, so your output's higher for more of the time. I go to bench press. I do 30 sets of one. I should be able to create more power output and have higher power output. Let's say the first one is 100 or I don't know, 1,000 watts.
Mhm.
The 15th one should be, let's say it's a little lower, it's 950 or whatever, and the 30th is 900 watts, right? On creatine, those should be elevated a little bit because the quality of each of those reps, the time to fatigue or the time should drop off, correct or no?
Yeah, it's definitely going to drop off, and I do think creatine is going to have that little bit of benefit.
So how does that not necessarily carry over to vertical jump?
Because like you're not truly depleting phosphocreatine at that point. That with that high intensity, short duration, I don't think you're really going to be depleting your phosphocreatine sources.
So
Yeah.
the training effect would come more so like lifting, like 'cause you're saying it's the time duration of a jump is so short that you're not depleting all the phosphocreatine versus if you're doing
Exactly.
a set of 5 squats, which might take 15 to 20 seconds. At that point, you're like completely depleted. You'll be able to go a little bit harder in that set of 5.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which
You need at least like
hypothetically, you could jump higher on the creatine, but it's because your training can be a tiny bit harder.
right. So during your higher volume training sessions, that's where creatine will probably be your better influence. You're still going to need those long rest periods, but doing
Yeah.
higher volumes during that whole session will probably be more
So
beneficial.
so would it be beneficial? Because typically, like for example, the cycle I'm doing right now is high volume. Then we probably do some max strength work, and then I'd peak my vertical when we do like absolute strength work, like 1 to 3 reps. Would it be beneficial to take creatine during my high volume training cycles and max training cycles when I'm doing anywhere from 5 to 10 reps on a squat, and then cycle off the creatine, lose the water weight during the month when I'm doing absolute strength training, where the creatine technically wouldn't be helping me as much because the sets are shorter?
Yeah,
Do you
that's
think that
exactly
would?
what my recommendations would be. That
I
I
was going
think,
to ask that. Do we cycle off to get the benefits of the
yep.
training?
I
But be
think it's
lighter?
so individual. You should really be monitoring your weight and see how creatine affects your own body weight. But if you do see an increase in body weight due to creatine, it's probably when you're doing heavy, high volume training sessions, use a lot of creatine. But right when you need to perform, go off of it for about a week. I think you'd lose some body weight, and
So it's
then
basically during the taper. During the
Yeah.
taper,
Right.
hop off creatine.
Yep.
Wow, that's actually super interesting. I was going to ask that too. What would your clinical performance recommendation be? But you kind of can do that because there is a lot of basic research on it. I will say that, and we know it works. It's not like we're saying this is what we see in the cell. Let's give performance recommendations.
I totally want to try that.
I'm definitely going to give it a rip, especially because what you said about me. All right, so here's another scenario. I love scenarios. Let's say I go into my session, and instead of 1 jump, I'm doing 2 to 3 with very minimal rest. I'm talking 15 seconds to 30 seconds. That's basically what I take between reps, 5-second effort. Okay. I get to 4 or 5 and I'm like, shit, I'm like, my lungs are burning. My legs are like getting a little bit fatigued. My vertical starts to drop a little bit. Let's say that's how my sessions go. That's realistically how they go. How do you think creatine would impact that?
So it'll probably help you at the very start when you're starting to get fatigued. You'll have a little bit more phosphocreatine within the muscle to keep that muscle going. But if you're not giving those rest periods, you're going to have more creatine in the muscle and not have time for it to become phosphocreatine.
So let's say I take a longer rest after I get fatigued after like the 5th or 6th jump.
Mm-hmm. So
Would you
that's
think
where,
that would
that's
help?
where the creatine supplementation will really help you.
So realistically, it actually would help a shit ton because that's actually how my sessions go. I move into glycolytic for sure. You can ask Austin or Isaiah. What is it like watching me do a dunk session, guys?
Cardio.
It's like cardio.
Oh, dude, that's the best way to describe it. He just like me and Isaiah dunk, we chill, we talk, make a few jokes, have a few laughs, you know what I'm saying? And then John's like blah blah blah.
I literally do 4 to 5. It's like go, walk back, recovery, go, walk back, recovery, go, walk back, recovery. I've looked at it. It's 15 to 30 seconds rest.
I've never seen anyone dunk
between.
like that. Like I've never seen.
I think it's because I'm more type 2A fiber type. Like I'm better at the 400 meter dash. My brother's a distance runner. He's an incredible distance runner. He's my identical twin. It's not like my genetics are different. So
Chris
my
Staples
body
dunks like that.
Staples is a
Bro.
specimen of all specimens.
Yeah, Staples dunk like that for sure.
And his vertical is
go
only
into
39 inches, he says. So
Yeah,
maybe he's like me.
He'll go into a session and 360 ease bait, 360 windmill, slingshot, 360 under both, and then he's done.
Just dead.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good night.
Well, he won't be dead. But then he'll be talking shit.
There was,
I like that.
There was like
I'm interested though, Isaiah and Austin, how long do you guys think you rest when you're just in between your normal sessions, in between like exercises?
Wait, like a training or dunking?
Let's go dunking.
All right.
When I'm dunking, it's probably every minute is when I dunk.
Okay.
Like I had a 16-minute session last weekend and it was like 16 dunks or 18. I think it was 18 jumps total. So yeah, when I'm warming up, it's definitely quicker. When I'm warming up, it can be like 30 to 45 seconds. Once I'm in it, it's probably a little over a minute. And then when I'm lifting, if it's a really heavy set, it's about three minutes, and it can get up to like 4. If it's not super heavy, I would say it's like 2.5 minutes.
Austin?
I would say mine's about the same, unless Isaiah is coaching me to dunk because he gets excited and he'd be like, all right, go. Like right after and it's like 4 seconds rest. It's like a John session. I'm like,
Yeah, I love it. I'm like,
I gotta breathe, man. Like I gotta breathe.
His ADHD brain loves watching me dunk. It's like, no, do another one.
And he's like, all right, let's get it.
So what is your lens on that, Brandon? Any
So your
insight?
rationale, I think, resting less for the dunking is because, you're not exercising long enough to really deplete the phosphocreatine in the muscle compared to your lifting session.
So what's actually changing? Is it the time to get back to max creatine, or is it that you just are like the time is the same, but you can load back to the peak of it by the end of it? So you're saying if I'm dunking like that frequently, odds are like the first couple, I'm probably not depleting all of it anyways. So it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rate, like, whatever. I'm not getting to the end of my creatine phosphate, but by the second or third, I'm getting to the end of it. So, it's like, I imagine like a little energy bar almost, right? Or almost like this little like speaker, you can kind of see like
they call it a molecular battery is how you should think about creatine.
So it's like, at the start, it's like pretty high, but it doesn't really all come all the way down. And it goes back up and goes back up and goes back up. It doesn't really come all the way down. It goes back up, it goes back up. And then eventually, obviously, it's like you get to the end and, you're like, you've really fully depleted it. You're going glycolytic at this point. I mean, obviously, it's like not just glycolytic, but primarily glycolytic. And your performance starts to fall off because obviously you can't maintain that level of intensity. Your output will change. And you're saying if you wait for it to fully replenish, that you should be able to generate more like higher quality jumps at the beginning, before when your battery's full. What's interesting is jumping for me is more neural, rhythmic, being warm, things like that. For these guys, it's more muscular almost. Like it takes me 2 to 3 jumps. If I do that spurt of like 10 to 15 jumps and I get really winded and shit, I'll be jumping high when I'm glycolytic because my rhythm is good. and my anticipatory response of my foot hitting the ground, because there's pre-contraction, as you know, before the foot strikes the ground, that mechanism upregulates for me, and I'll jump really high and really well. For these guys, I don't necessarily know if that's the case for you guys. Like for you, it's just like a 1 rep max squat when you jump off 2 feet, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Isaiah, or I mean,
Well,
Austin?
it's more like a 70% squat, and I'm just trying
Like
to
as
move
fast
it
as you
harder.
can.
Yeah.
And then Austin, what about you?
I think it depends off 1 or 2 foot for me.
Off 2, it's probably more like Isaiah, right?
Yeah, I would say 1 foot is definitely more rhythmic. Like it just depends. It honestly, like, it also
It's
depends
so
on
variable.
if I'm cranky, man. Like, oh, it's not even.
If you're cranky, you can't jump off 1 foot.
I can't jump off one when I'm cranky.
But Brandon, you're saying, so to optimally train to take advantage of creatine, I'm in my session. I have 6x3 power clean, 5x5 back squat. How do I optimally use creatine? And on this note, we'll go because Isaiah's got places to be, things to do. Mr.
Yeah,
Big
so
Time over here.
you're just going to chronically take it for that period of time where you're doing your higher volume sessions, like acutely taking it around.
But do I have to
work.
do anything with my rest periods to take advantage of it fully?
Yeah, believe it or not, it could take 5 to 7 minutes to truly increase your phosphocreatine levels back to resting if you completely deplete them.
You know what's
Which
crazy
no one
is
does.
if you watch Jordan Kilgannon dunk, he's resting 5+ minutes in between his jumps.
What?
Yep.
Not
And
all
That's
of
why I
it.
was going to ask. I think you guys could benefit from longer rest
No,
periods.
in
But
like mid session, like when he's like focused up and he's like meditating in between, like he's like just visualizing the whole time and just like everything's like an explosion for his jump.
That's insane. I cannot do that.
But you do always have to think there's more than just phosphocreatine going on. There's the nervous system, connective tissue, just
Right.
force
Literally
output of
just
muscle.
core warmth. Like, how am I sweating or am I physically cold? Like, for me, that's almost more important. But I feel like this is a good place to stop. So we will do that. Brandon, I don't think you really have social media, do you?
I don't.
If people want to learn more about what you're doing, where should they go?
Honestly, I'd probably just email me. So all lowercase bcjones044@gmail.com.
I hope you don't get an influx of like 6,000 emails from this.
I was hesitant to be honest, but let's do it. I'm in.
I don't think you will. I don't think you will. Based on our
Isaiah, you guys
DMs.
have questions too. I love the questions, so bring it on if you got more.
Yeah, I feel like we pretty thoroughly covered it. It was really interesting at the end there talking about it. And obviously we had some good fun here. So that said, guys, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe as always. And if you are looking for the best jump training in the entire world, Brandon can go ahead and advocate for me. He knows how obsessed I've been with jumping my entire at least graduate degree to now. And prior to that, maybe we'll get a different guest from before, maybe my brother, he's a doctor too. But if you guys are looking to be the best, go to THPStrength.com and sign up for a call with Austin. Austin, say hello.
Hey.
You gotta actually say, there we go. And we'll see if you're a good fit. We'll check it out and see if you're going to be a good addition to the team. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace out.